Hello and welcome to the Wealth Doc Podcast with your host, Mike Heckman. I'm Wendy McConnell. Hey, Mike, how are you?
No, fantastic, Wendy. We're here in beautiful, sunshiny Michigan under about 18 inches of snow. Other than that, everything's fantastic.
Hey, it's even snowing in Texas right now, so you know. But I see we do have a guest today.
Yes, we've got local business owner Bob Gibson on the line here. And I'm excited to have Bob here because, and even timely with the weather here, Bob was telling me about a boat ride that he took. And I wanted to bring him on and share it with our guests because I thought it was quite a interesting thing that he's got going on here. So,
yeah. I'm always excited to talk about it and to be invited and have someone actually interested in the trip because it's something I like to talk about a lot. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. So I guess, first of all, like, what made you think that this boat trip that you took was something you wanted to do? What was the inspiration?
So for years, I've lived here on Lake Michigan. We've lived on the beach. And you would think basic geography would have led me to understand that I could get anywhere in the world by stepping off of the end of our dock here on Lake Michigan. Basic geography 101, I must not have done that great in it because
you just went over my head. You know, I guess so we're not landlocked at all here. So there's ways to get to the oceans and then from there anywhere.
That's right. And one evening, a few years ago, I was out on Lake Michigan with some friends. It was a beautiful evening. The lake was like glass, and we just sort of sat out there and enjoyed the beauty of it. And a friend of mine said, well, you know, my parents had done the Great Loop. They did it 2 times when I was in high school. And I thought for a minute, I said, well, what is the Great Loop? I've never heard of this.
What's the Great Loop?
So he went on to explain that, you know, they left basically Michigan and went all the way down the river system, Midwest rivers, down into the Gulf of Mexico, all the way around Florida and back up the East Coast, through the Erie Canal and back through the Great Lakes and home. And the minute he said that, the bell went off, ding, and we started planning right then. I said, this is something I have to do. I'm not sure why I was called to do it. It sounded like an excellent adventure that was right out our back door. And so it was also sort of the start of COVID. We were sort of stuck inside, and I was watching podcasts and videos about people who've done the Great Loop and boating adventures, and realized that through this series of waterways, we could pull out of Ludington, Michigan, and with the proper equipment go anywhere in the world. It's not like when you hop in a car and you head down the freeway, we can only go to certain destinations wherever the road goes. This was like the adventure side of me realized that this was a pathway to the world. I can't cross the ocean in our boat. Maybe I could, I don't know. But that sense of adventure, that sense of freedom, especially, you know, compounded with being tied down for COVID, Kathy, my wife, and I were hooked. We had to set out on this boat, try something different, and head out and see what we could see. So we spent some time researching different kind of boats. We ended up purchasing a boat in 2021. Spent the next year outfitting the boat.
Was this your first boat, or did you grow up on boats? Or
no? So growing up, we had several fishing boats, smaller boats, pontoon boats. I've been around boats my whole life. We've been fishing on the Great Lakes since I was a young kid. And but this boat that we purchased for the trip is a 50-foot Sea Ray, and we purchased it specifically
for this adventure.
And brought it home, learned how to operate it. There's obviously a lot to learn when you step up from a 25-foot boat to a 50-foot boat. So we practiced docking, and we practiced anchoring, and we fit the boat out for what we needed. And we wanted to make sure that we could spend time on the anchor. We wanted to make sure that we knew all the systems in the boat and what every switch did and where all the wires went. So we really got into it, maybe more than some people did. I have heard stories of guys who retire on a Friday, hop on the boat on Saturday and go with no boating experience, but that's not in my DNA. So
A little bit scary if you're like out there in the middle of nowhere on the lake or the ocean, and then it's like, oh, I'm stranded. You know, now what?
I'm a boater. Now what do I do? So that was it. And last year in October, we cast the lines and headed down Lake Michigan and got into the river system down by Chicago. And we took the rivers all the way through the heartland of America, right down to the Mobile Bay is what dumps into the Gulf of Mexico. And just before we reached Mobile Bay, so that's, as we're looking outside here and watching this weather, and as we head south from Michigan in the fall, we're thinking, just keep going south. It's going to get warmer. Just keep going. Every day is a closer day to warmer weather.
It's half a degree every 10 miles or something.
Right. As a matter of fact, a lot of the loopers, the people who do the Great Loop, call it chasing 80. We're chasing 80. I thought that maybe it was an age reference, but it's a temperature thing. So we made it down the rivers through the fall, which you can imagine was just beautiful. I mean, quite an experience through Kentucky Lake, and we spent some time on the Mississippi, and I mean, it's just overwhelming. And right before we made it to Mobile Bay, which is where the river widens out to Mobile Bay, and then Mobile Bay dumps into the Gulf of Mexico, we impacted a submerged object. And it was traumatic. We completely demolished the running gear on the port side of our boat. So it was early morning. We were with a few other boats.
Do you know what you hit?
No idea.
Okay.
Right now, we think it was a submerged log or piece of machinery that was under the water. We couldn't see. The boat lurched forward. It's like stopped in its tracks. The bow came up and tilted over to port, and we were down one engine. So the panic, all of the preparation kicked in. We checked engines, we checked levels, we checked for water, we checked fluids. We were able to start both engines, and we were able to basically make it to Mobile, Alabama under one engine, and the second engine was sort of keeping up. Where we happened to be that day in Alabama was about the most desolate part. So the last stretch of the river from about Coffeyville, Alabama down to Mobile is about as desolate as you could get. As a matter of fact, if we had to abandon the boat, we had hundreds of miles in each direction that we would have had to trounce through swamp. I mean, somebody would have had to come get us. So it was very scary. Again, on board is just my wife, myself, and the dog. And we had our friend Scott on his boat, Dreamer, was with us. So he kind of would move ahead, stay in touch on the radio, and kind of forged forward. It was gray, it was rainy, it was cold, and we were in the middle of nowhere. And what should have been, 4-hour trip down the river, 3-hour trip in good weather, took us 11 hours to get down the river to Mobile. And that is 11 hours of nail biting.
Yeah.
Are the engines going to stop? Is this boat going down? Constantly checking the bilge in the engine room. Are we taking on
adrenaline survival mode the whole time?
Adrenaline. As a matter of fact, I don't have a clear picture of it in my head because I was somewhere else mentally during the whole process. So we made it to Mobile Bay, where the geography goes from desolate swampland, river delta, to one of the most busiest industrial ports we have. There's battle cruisers, there's ships, cargo ships. It's just a busy port. So we went from desolate isolation to all of a sudden I have a disabled vessel and activity coming at me from all directions. So we made it to Fairhope, Alabama, off of Mobile Bay, tied up for the evening, and no sooner got the lines tied on the boat and went right into the yacht club there and did our best to forget about what had happened. So
Right on.
yeah.
So then obviously like you had to have like some repair people come in or what was that like? I mean, like, is that like ordering parts and be up for 2 weeks? I mean,
Well, that's what I thought or had hoped.
yeah,
So we made we were in Fairhope, Alabama. Our friends had, they were on their adventure, so they traveled on. We made arrangements with boat yards. So we have to at least get hauled out of the water to see what's going on. Our boat is screwed up underneath. Something bad happened. And we made arrangements with a boat yard in Orange Beach. They said, if you can limp the boat over here, bring it over. We'll haul it out and we'll make a determination. So we stayed in Fairhope for a day or two to calm down, fired the boat back up, back out into Mobile Bay and out into the Gulf of Mexico to make I think it's about a 30 nautical mile run over to Orange Beach. We're in the Panhandle.
right. Again, limping the whole way there.
Limping, but I had a certain sense of satisfaction that I had left my dock in Ludington, Michigan, and I was now in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right on.
Hook or by crook, I was there. So we made it over to Orange Beach. We hauled the boat out, and the damage was horrific. The port prop was mangled beyond recognition. I'll use some boating terms here, but the port shaft, the rudder, everything on the port side was screwed up. Inside the boat, whatever we hit must have grabbed the propeller and stopped it immediately. The engine tried to keep spinning and crushed all of the fiberglass engine mounts inside the boat.
Just with its own torque, just
yeah, with the torque of it, crushed everything. So we pulled the boat out. We were at a boat yard in Orange Beach and began the process. And the process ended up being a 3-month process. 3 months. So it was November 17th, mid-November when we got hauled out. And for 3 months, we were residents of Orange Beach, Alabama. We rented a condo, let them do all the repair work. I eventually got involved with the repair work. Some of my background is in building and planning, so I was down there all the time. I think I helped, and a lot of the guys I worked with said it was helpful that I was there kind of moving things along. Eventually got the boat running, and somewhere around February or March, we got the all clear and headed out of there. So
it's like the movie Doc Holliday on the water.
It's just a constant adventure. So to back up in a little bit more of sort of why you kind of brought me in today, I'm not fully retired yet. I'm semi-retired or dreaming of retirement. And we had planned this trip to be sort of a 9-month trip. Typically, the Great Loop takes about a year. It's 6,000 miles all the way around. And we thought we could do it in about 9 months and come back so that in the summer, when my business picks back up, I would be pulling back home.
Right.
So we could leave here in October, go spend a beautiful winter down around Florida and the Keys and hopefully to the Bahamas, and then get home in time to be here for summer because, living here, there's not many places more beautiful than right here.
We have 4 months of paradise. If you don't know Ludington, Michigan, we've got 4 months of paradise and 8 months of scaring away the predators.
That's it. That's about it. So now we're 3 months behind, if you will. And we had talked to local boaters, sailors, and said, our dream on this whole thing had been to make it to the Bahamas. If we, amongst other dreams of just the freedom and the boating and the trip, something we longed to do was make it to the Bahamas, especially on our own boat, on our own power from Ludington. I mean, you can't drive to the Bahamas from Ludington.
Right on.
So we are now in the Panhandle, Orange Beach, Pensacola, that area of Florida. We've got the all clear. We made it to Chub Key in the Bahamas in 5 days. So we left there. We hit Clearwater, Marco Island. We left there. We hit Carabel, Florida, then cut across the Gulf of Mexico down to Clearwater, Marco Island, down to Key Largo, and then we crossed the Atlantic or the Gulf Stream into Chub Key in the Bahamas. And we're fortunate enough to spend like 6 weeks in the Bahamas and just think about what we had done and sort of revel in our success. That was absolutely glorious. I mean, the Bahamas are spectacular. To be there on your own boat. We docked at marinas. We anchored on islands where we were one of 2 or 3 boats. That's it. I mean,
How cool.
you think all our lives, you think, I'd just like to go to a deserted island and just see what. It's a little scary. I mean,
Okay.
when you're there at night, it's just you and your family, me and my wife and our dog, and you can hear outboard motors out in the distance, and you don't know someone coming. So,
Hmm.
but it was absolutely exhilarating. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. Once you get past the nerves and realize, okay, I am in paradise. I've gotten here on my own. I'm in charge of my own destiny at this point, if you will. It's my decisions for food, for shelter, for everything that matter. And in that 4 to 6 weeks, just learned a lot about ourselves and, the boat and the adventure and things we want out of life. And it became time to start thinking about, all right, let's get back over to the mainland and start working our way home. We're already a few months behind. So around
We've crested Everest. Now we've got enough food to get back.
now we got enough food to get back. So we, around April, end of April, beginning of May, we worked our way through the Bahamas back over to the US. We crossed back in, around Stewart, Florida, on the east coast of Florida, and began to work our way up the East Coast. We spent most of May, working up the East Coast. We went South Carolina and made our way up to New Jersey, and you have to go back out in the ocean in New Jersey. Most of the East Coast trip can be done what they call inside in the intercoastal water, where you have to be in the ocean. New Jersey is the only spot where you have to jump back out into the ocean to pull into the lower bay and enter New York. So around mid-May, beginning of May, we made our way into the lower bay, into New York Harbor, past Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. And that was another exhilarating experience to go through all that. And now I'm in, just like maybe my great grandparents did. I'm coming in the same way. So that was exhilarating. We made our way up the Hudson River into the Erie Canal, which is very historic and was one of our country's first major trade industry operations. A lot of history there. It's only for recreational boating now, but back in the day it had its purpose. We made our way via the Erie Canal, made our way into Lake Ontario. We crossed back west across Lake Ontario to what they call the Welland Canal. The Welland Canal is how boats traverse Niagara Falls, right?
Okay.
So Ontario is connected to Erie via Niagara Falls, or this man-made canal that gets you back to Lake Erie. We shot across Lake Erie, went up past Detroit, which was spectacular for us because that is where we were originally from before we moved up to Ludington. We were from that area. So to see it from the water, we went under the Gordie Howe Bridge that's almost completed. So all that stuff was very cool, very nostalgic. Cross Lake St. Clair, heading north. We went back up through Lake Huron, made it underneath the Mackinac Bridge, and we pulled back into Ludington around June 1st. After all,
so you still got the best of summer.
We got the best. So we pulled in June 1st. It was already, 68, 70 degrees back home here. And it was exhilarating.
Well, what do you think was your favorite part? If you had to just condense, can you say hey, what was a favorite part? Or
I think that the favorite part, or the part that draws us back. So I will say the favorite part overall, or in theory, was Kathy and I against the world.
Yeah.
Right. So we were detached from our day-to-day whatever. And it was just the two of us making day-to-day, hour-to-hour decisions as a team. It's not all roses. I mean, that's a lot of time to be together alone. Right. But I think that the challenge of doing that together really made us stronger, and was probably really one of my favorite parts is how we did that.
Yeah.
So that one of my favorite parts was the time, just the two of us together. One of the geographical or physical favorite parts was the Bahamas. Without question, it's motivated us to want to do this again. We're considering a live aboard lifestyle. I don't know that would mean we would sell our brick and mortar home and strictly live on the water.
Yeah, because this has changed like a lot of your just like thoughts and plans on life. I mean, like
it was so emotionally intense that the first couple months back was a hard adjustment to go from a year of living adventurously without an office, without, I wouldn't say responsibilities, because we have day-to-day responsibilities to maintain your floating home and your travel, but just to be out there with, what are we going to do today? What's today going to bring? What town will we see next? Where should we go? Where's this river go? Where's this lake take us? That's hard to beat. And so we came back, and that is sort of where we're leaning now. So to answer your question, my favorite part was that sort of the two of us against the world feeling. My favorite geographical part was the Bahamas, that beautiful tropical water and that vibe, and to sort of be away from the machine that is this country, to be to a sort of a more chill location. That was my favorite part, and so much a favorite part. So those two things were so impressionable to us and so important that we're planning to, as I mentioned when I got here, planning to head out again this coming winter.
Is it going to be like the same trip or what, or
well, it's the same. We're going to get south. We're going to leave here in October and get the boat down south into the Gulf, somewhere in Florida. We'll probably park it for the month of December and come home, excuse me, be with friends and family and our kids and enjoy traditional Christmas and holidays at home. And then right after the new year, take the tree down and drive back down to the boat with the dog and hop on the boat and probably head to the Keys and then to the Bahamas for the winter. And the mindset this time is, can we, let's start thinking about this. Can we live on board? It's a new world after COVID with remote work, and, you and I have had video meetings, and it's, so can I semi-retire? Can I retire? Not sure. We're sort of feeling that out day by day, but with your help and some of the things we talk about, it's like, do you take life and do everything by the book and put everything in the right boxes and put, these pennies over here and these nickels over here, to maybe not be there in the end to spend it or in the same capacity?
I think COVID changed a lot of that perspective too.
It did for us. Yeah. Or do you still do the best you can to make all the right decisions, but sort of enjoy a little bit of it as you can go along? And I think that's what we're doing. That's what you and I are sort of working on together.
Yeah. Well, so many people or so many owners, when they leave their business, have almost like a remorse from it, and that's not even like a dollar thing. It's like, where's my value come from? What am I doing here? And then you coming in just like, with that change in spirit and just like, hey, I found a passion, it's like, man, that gets me excited. It's like helping people find a passion. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point. So much of our identity in this world is measured by your success or by your career or whatever. And that's okay. That's sort of how the world works. But it's certainly important to find other passions and other ways to sort of identify yourself, or don't identify yourself at all, maybe, and just see what's out there. And so we will take the boat back down. We will try and recapture some of that love and interest of the water and living aboard. And we're really going to start considering, can we live on a boat? Can we not have a car? Can we live on a boat, live simply, live within our means?
Do you think you picked the right boat?
It's never the right boat. Every boat's a compromise. Right? So that's a whole nother discussion. There's a right boat out there for everyone. And this one right now is the right one for us. So we would enjoy living on it, spending the winter down there. And what we think we might do this time, instead of coming back, is maybe we'd get the boat up to like South Carolina and store the boat there in the summer, drive home. Like we talked about earlier, Ludington's beautiful. There's beaches. We have friends with boats. There's tons to do here in the summer. Plus our friends and our family are all here. The summer's a fun and busy and beautiful time here. It's great.
Absolutely.
Then the following winter, when it starts to get a little chilly again, we drive back to South Carolina. Our boat's already south, and spend another winter in the Keys in the Bahamas doing a little
and like partial loop snowboarding.
Partial loop snowboarding. Maybe that's a new thing. We should maybe patent that or something.
All right.
But yeah, that's sort of the plan. It's a 2-year plan. It's just a rough plan. And to take it back to sort of exiting the business, especially when you own a business or build a business, and then you give it all up or retire, and you think, well, now who am I? I used to be Bob, the guy with these businesses, and now I think that this slow transition, and I think that's what I was saying earlier, is you can do all the right things and make all the right choices and wait till you're 62 or 65 or 67. But maybe if you're fortunate enough with some good planning and maybe a little creativity, maybe a hybrid it a little bit along the way. Maybe try extending that vacation to 4 weeks or 6 if you can.
Right on.
Still correctly managing your assets, but maybe trying to enjoy your assets while you can a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Now, you said something about a YouTube channel before we started. So tell me about that.
So all of the stories that I've told you today, if you're at all interested in the Great Loop or the boating or any of my story, any of our story, we did document the entire trip on a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Cruising Andromeda. That's Andromeda, like the constellation or the Greek god, Andromeda, Cruising Andromeda, all one word. And from the inception, where we decided, okay, we're going to do this, and the concept, all the way through the purchase of our boat, the day we left, all through the tragic accident in the river, all the way till we got home, is all documented with weekly episodes. We've got I think we're up to about 10,000 subscribers now.
Wow.
We get a lot of good interaction with our viewers and our community every week. Kathy is very good about comments and communicating with the people who watch. And if you're at all interested, even a few episodes, I promise you'd be entertaining. You get a little boat fix out of it, and
we'll find out what your dog looks like.
That's right. Find out what the dog looks like.
Awesome.
All right, Mike. Tell us how people get in touch with you if they have questions.
Oh, yeah. Check out our website at the sablepointwealthmanagement.com, or I've got a team available to answer calls during business hours, 231-425-4308. Again, that's 231-425-4308. And Bob, it's been great having you on today, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. And thank you for listening today. Please like, follow, and share this podcast. Until next time, I'm Wendy McConnell.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Doc Podcast with Mike Heckman. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Have questions? Visit our website at sablepointwealthmanagement.com or give us a call at 231-425-4308. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Sable Point Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Mike Heckman. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, Private Client Services, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Mike Heckman or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice.
Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, Mike Heckman, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.